As lawyers, I think you are well aware, I've seen your program, and you're well aware of the ACFTA and the freedom of movement protocol, also the aviation agreements we have for having free space in Africa. As lawyers, we expect that you will be our ambassadors in the continent. You know that, for example, the ACFTA has been adopted, marvelously signed by most of our membership, but it's not yet entered into force because we only received 7 ratifications out of 22 in order to have it entered and have it to enter into force. So I think it is pertinent for you as lawyers and practitioners to bring to the attention of the governments and to push from your side, as well as we do, to enhance the ratification on that agreement. For the lawyers, part of our work starts as an advice, and the other part starts when we have a fight. So we expect a lot comes out of these agreements we have signed between our member states. And I think it would be very good to have the African lawyers defending the African states. Because until now, unfortunately, on the international level, all of you are well aware that most of those representing our own countries are not from the continent. This we would, like, at least from my side, I'm trying to change. As Legal Counsel of the African Union, in the last 2 cases, those of you who follow the International Court of Justice and the International Criminal Court, we had stood before both courts in the course of this month of September, and I had a full African team. I didn't have any lawyers from outside of the continent. And I have to say that it was marvelous. In the Chagos Archipelago advisory opinion before the ICJ as an organization, we were the last to speak. And we hit headlines because our performance was outstanding. I think it's time that we show to the world that Africa do have very good lawyers. We don't need to wait for others from outside of the continent to come and defend us. And this is also part of it for me as a duty to show our leaders in the continent that we have good lawyers, that they can stand before these courts and they do the job as good or better than others. So I think this is also very important for you to note that you have to push for more visibility for your work on the international level in order to be able to be picked by our leaders as our counsels. That is a very important issue. Back to the ACFTA, you know, there is a whole section on the dispute settlement down there where it follows a little bit the path of WTO. But with some tweaking for the African continent. This issue of settlement of disputes and how it would work, it is still under study. We only have the text adopted, basically, and it is still under study. For the time being, we are having workshops and seminars and so on to see how this will be established. I think this is also something very pertinent for you to have a say in from now, because some of you are experienced in trade law and these matters, and it's very good to have your perspective on the matter relating to the ACFTA. As far as the new developments that have taken place that you have already discussed in the course of the 2 days in the African Union in order to enhance the integrity of the continent, we are really hopeful that this will make a change, and we think that this change has to incorporate all of us in developing our countries. I have to be honest with you that basically after the adoption of the ACFTA in Kigali, and when we went back, I wouldn't name countries, but I cannot tell you how many ambassadors from other parts of the world came and knocked at the door of the Commission just to know the details of the text. Who had signed, how many ratifications are needed. Because we're talking here about interests. And when we're talking about South cooperation, it cannot be better than having trade as a real step where we can complement each other. So those who trade with Africa started to worry if Africa will have such a free zone for its products. This means our products will reach each other cheaper. Equally, it means for others, another competitive in the market that it is very hard to beat. So I think this is very important for all of you to know that this is extremely important to the continent and for you as lawyers, and I invite you to work with your governments in order to make sure they ratify as soon as possible that agreement, because it's very important to all of us. The current legal structures we have in the continent is getting advanced by the hour. One of the things that we have is not only now that we are working on the different developmental issues in the continent, but also the reform of the African Union itself. Now we are working on it, and we have a summit coming in November to address the issue of the reform of the Commission, and also probably those of you who know very well the text of the OAU and AU. Now we have a lot of treaties, so how can we implement them? How can we reconcile them? Especially when it comes to the legal issues with the courts. Now we have several courts, and we're trying to make one court. So all of these things we are trying to sort out. Maybe it will be also useful for just an information to tell you that two things took place in the course of this month. Within the ICC, the case I mentioned was Jordan's appeal in al-Bashir case, and it was basically on the immunities and the contradiction in the Rome Statute, why we have to honor or not to honor immunities of heads of states and other senior officials before the International Criminal Court. And after the deliberations in New York, that's where I came from basically, was we were working with the African group in New York to put on the agenda of the General Assembly a call for a new advisory opinion on the issue of immunities of heads of states. Those of you who are familiar with the ICC Rome Statute, there is inherent contradiction between Article 27 and Article 98 in relation to immunities. One is speaking that the jurisdiction, no immunities will stand against the court to exercise its jurisdiction, while the other speaks on the engagements of the states and other obligations of the states parties towards the third parties, which was the case of Jordan, before that South Africa, and before that Malawi and Chad.